Ahoy! There are some different kinds of problems with server transfers in New World at the moment, and I wanted to let you know about these so you're aware, so you're not accidentally making a mistake that quite a few people have made by now, as well as maybe bring some more attention to another transfer issue. The first issue is as follows. If you are on a full server and you're in a queue, it gives you the option to transfer out of your server into another server to have no queue anymore. This on paper sounds nice, but it's not really clarified how exactly this works, and apparently there aren't many steps between clicking this button and actually transferring your character. I am not gonna risk it, I'm not gonna try what exactly you have to do. People have been saying you're not even selecting a server. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's how it works for everyone. I'm not sure. All I can tell you is that I wouldn't recommend clicking this button because apparently you're not getting a lot of warnings when you're transferring out. You can see from some of the many comments that you can find on the New World Discord at this point that many people accidentally or more or less accidentally transferred out of the server and then didn't realize that there was no way to actually come back to the original server. This is especially a problem in smaller regions like, for example, AP, because here we don't really have all that many players on this secondary server. Almost everyone is on the main server, there are occasional queues, and the second server in comparison is relatively empty. If you're a more experienced player, you may know what you're doing by transferring into an empty server, because there are significant advantages to that as well. You can get resources way easier, some things are way less contested in general, so it's not just all downsides, and if you're only playing the game as a solo player anyways, then you might have a more quiet experience over there. But for most players, that's just not how they want to play the game. You want to participate maybe in influence races, you want to do the arenas, the not 3v3 arenas, but the arena bosses, the arena trials, and various other late game related things, like for example chest runs, that require you to have a decent population on the server. So people are already asking for ways to transfer back, and that's where we're running into issues. Second transfer problem is specifically related to consoles. Currently, transfers are disabled for consoles with no ETA when they will be enabled. So hopefully you have just chosen the right server from the start. And branching off from that, while console transfers in general may be enabled at some point, this will not apply for the console to standard servers. Originally, when they first talked about it, it sounded like we would be able to move characters from the console-only servers to the standard servers if we felt like it, and that is something that people had as an expectation as to why they were going onto the console-only server as well. They said, I want to learn the game, explore the game with console players as a beginner, which I completely understand, and then once I'm ready, I can go out and merge into or transfer into one of the standard servers and, you know, have at that point kind of learned the basics. And now that is no longer the case at all. You will not be able to get into a standard server. You're stuck on the console server, or you have to start again. And last but not least, there's the issue of the region transfers, which in my opinion is extremely frustrating. Region transfers were disabled with New World Aeternum, not allowing you to switch your characters between regions anymore. This is likely, at least in part, due to the gold selling that was going on between regions. They were able to kind of switch materials between locations where it was easier to get them, harder to get them, and just bring them over when they're different value and make money from that. And that was obviously something that Amazon didn't want, but maybe there was also an infrastructure side reason to this that they didn't talk about. However, what happened was the transfer restriction was announced too late for some people. So people transferred over to other servers before because maybe their servers, their region was quiet. Male Oreo, for example, did that because there wasn't really enough gameplay happening in AP at the time. So he wanted to get some Outpost Rush footage, transferred over to, I think, NA or somewhere, and wanted to transfer back. And since there was no reset of the transfer cooldown or any option given to them beforehand to transfer back over, they have no option to transfer their characters back. And initially, from the way it was posted as a brief line in the patch notes, I thought maybe this is just a temporary change, which would make sense kind of for the start of New World Aeternum. But they have now been very clear that this is a permanent change with no intention of returning to the old system. I think that's a problem, not only for the people who are currently stuck in the quote-unquote wrong server, but also for anyone who ever wants to move to another region. I don't think it's unlikely that people will want to move from NA West to NA East at some point of their life. Of course, it's not going to be a massive amount of people, but it will be enough that it will matter for them. And I think the option to transfer your character, all the time that you've invested in your character at that point, should pretty much be a given, and most games offer that. I don't think it necessarily needs to be through the in-game system itself, as it currently is, but at least via a support ticket for the cases where that's necessary. I think they should offer us this option. Starting fresh on a new server with everyone else is fun. Having to level up a new character when everyone else is already maxed out is much less fun in comparison. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking the bell, and if you want to support me further, you can do so on Patreon. Thanks to my patrons who already do exactly that and get early trading tips in return. And of course, thank you for watching. SLOTH, out.